Good morning, everyone. So, again, it's English time, and of course, we're going to have our new lesson for today. And for this morning, we will be talking about documentation and citation. So, in most high school subjects, you do a lot of research work, and at times, you will be asked to write a research paper as writing assignments, right? And note that in any kind of research paper, you must use proper documentation to identify the material drawn from your readings. Okay? So, in this lesson, we're going to discuss or we're going to learn why do we need to cite sources? Why is it important? Okay? Let's define first the word documentation. Okay, so it is a basic requirement of research writing to ensure that you give proper credit to sources of information and would not pass off someone's work as your own intentionally or unintentionally. All right? So failure to use proper documentation is considered plagiarism. Okay. Now, what is plagiarism? Okay, so it is presenting someone else's work or ideas as your own with or without their consent by incorporating it into your work without full acknowledgement. So all published and unpublished material, whether in manuscript, printed or electronic form, is covered under this definition. So plagiarism is a serious breach of academic honesty. And that's the reason why we need to do the documentation and rather citation. All right? Now let's define citation. So what is citation? It is a reference to the source of an information used in your research. It is indicating in a piece of writing where you got the information. All right? So anytime or every time rather that you directly quote, paraphrase, or summarize the essential elements of someone else's idea in your work, an in-text citation should follow. Okay? So you do not have to cite your own ideas unless they have been published. Okay? Moving on, let's study some basic documentation rules and most common citation styles. Okay? But before that, my question is, why do we cite sources? Okay? What do you think? First is, we cite sources to observe ethics. Okay? It is unethical and unfair to use or copy someone else's words or ideas as if they were your own, right? So you have to cite sources. Okay, so next, to tell your audience that you have researched your topic and that you are reliable as a writer. So again, we cite sources as often as possible to give credit for intellectual property. And citing sources makes you more reliable as a writer because it shows you've done research on your topic and that you know where your information comes from. Okay? Next, we have to avoid plagiarism or academic dishonesty. So here, we also cite sources because of copyright laws. It is illegal to use someone else's written ideas without giving them a credit or acknowledgement. So this is or these are the reasons why do we cite sources? Okay? All right. Next question is, when should I cite the material? So first, no need to document items that are common knowledge. Okay? So if you think that everybody knows about this knowledge, do not document. It is not necessary to document this item. And if you are unsure if something is common knowledge, support the materials with a source. Okay? And document or support any material that indicates an opinion or an interpretation. So you must cite a reference when you discuss, summarize, or paraphrase the ideas of author. Next question is, when should I quote directly? So first, quote only important statements. So you don't have to quote everything, okay? Just quote only important statements. So most often quotation is taken from the literature. They are used to support interpretations, also sentences from speech. So like for example, you quote from a speech of Nelson Mandela, okay? A scenes from a movie, all right, and elements of painting, etc. So it may be quoted if they further explain the argument you are trying to make. All right, so next we have, okay, quote if you want to show the authority of the speaker as a recognized expert in the field. Like for example, writings of Jose Rizal. All right, next. Quote when paraphrasing. So here, when you paraphrase the words or ideas of an author, you have to quote it. Okay? All right. So next. So next question is, which sources should I use? So do I have to use rather all the sources that I have? Of course, no. You have only to use reliable sources. So first, articles without authors can be reliable sources if there is a clearly legitimate group taking responsibility for the material. So when we say legitimate group, like for example, the medical board, some expert with that field, okay, so that is rather the work that does not have an author. You have to cite the sources by its title and the signal phrase, or use the first or second word. All right? Okay, so next we have use books if they are properly documented throughout. So here the titles of the books and reports are italicized, and titles of articles and chapters should be in quotation marks. Next, we have use journals and other periodicals that are peer-reviewed or approved by expert rather than the author. Okay, so you have to use journals that are always approved by expert before they are printed. Okay, so next we have use materials from the internet, but be more careful. Okay, so not all information in the internet is reliable, so be aware of it. All right? Okay. Okay, so we're done discussing the rules and documentation. Now let's discuss the common documentation style. Okay, so we have here MLA, or it stands for Modern Language Association, and APA, American Psychological Association. So maybe you will be thinking, citation doesn't count outside school, so why bother studying this? All right, the fact is you are right. MLA style doesn't matter at all outside the school, but it is for information literacy, for you to understand what kind of information sources you encounter and how to use them. Okay? All right. So now let's discuss MLA or Modern Language Association. So it is the standard format for papers, articles, and books in the arts and humanities. So footnotes and endnotes for additional information are used in this format. So again, MLA refers to a set of rules and conventions established by the Modern Language Association for crediting sources used in research paper, usually in the fields of social studies and liberal arts. Okay? When everyone documents their sources and papers in the same way, it is simple to recognize and understand the types of sources that were used for a project. So readers of your work will not only look at your citations to understand them, but to possibly explore them as well. Okay, so that is the importance of citations. All right, so here is an example of MLA style. So works cited is the name that MLA style, or rather MLA, gives to bibliography. So it is listing of all the sources you cited in the body of your paper. So it should be complete and accurate. So you have to put the name of the author, okay, the title of the source, the publishing house, the date, okay, the publisher or the publishing house, all right? So that is works cited or MLA style. Okay, so we have the APA or American Psychological Association. So how does it differ with the MLA? So here it is a style used by teachers in business and the social sciences. So endnotes are used in this format, right? So when working with APA, there are two things to keep in mind: the in-text citations and the reference page. All right. So here is an example of APA style. Okay. So in APA style, we are using the author's last name and the year of publication. Like for example, Derwing. Okay, it is the author's last name, then 2002, that is the year of publication. Also Thomas, 2004. So Thomas is the last name of the author and 2004 is the date, or rather the year of publication. Okay, so let's rather differentiate MLA to APA in the next slide. So what is the difference between MLA and APA citation? So here we're going to compare and contrast these two styles. So first, what is the topic of your research paper? So in APA, we use this style for sciences like natural, physical, and social sciences. In MLA, we use this style for essays on human society, culture, humanities, historical, literature, and art. And in text citation, so in APA, we use the author's last name, the year, and the page number. Like for example, Jones, author's last name, 2020, the year, and page 15, it is the page number. While in MLA, we use the author's last name and page number only. There is no date in MLA. So like for example, Jones, the author's last name, and 15, it is a page number. Alright? So in citation, so in APA, we have to use the author's last name and the initial letter of its first name. So like for example, Austin, so that is the last name of Jane, and J, the initial letter of the first name. Then you have to put or rather the title in the sentence case, and Newton Press or the publishing house. All right. And for MLA, the author's last name, the first name, and the title. So here in MLA, it is complete. Author's last name and first name, Austen Jane, Pride and Prejudice, Newton Press, 1918. Okay, so these are the things, or these are the important things that you have to remember in comparing or contrasting APA and MLA style. This is all for today, grade 8. See you in our live discussion. Again, this is Teacher Mitch, your English teacher. So bye everyone. Have a nice day.